my CEO wife, Katerina, and her male assistant are playing around quite extravagantly. From the office to the company rooftop. From the car to the outdoors. He calls her Little Greedy Cat. She calls him Little Teddy. Their love affair is well known to everyone. During their escapades, employees even have to deliver safety supplies to them. Even so, Katerina believes I don't know anything. She says, "As long as you're still Henry, I will never let you leave me, but I've already changed my name. I've planned everything." Chapter 1. Mr. Han, are you sure you want to change your name? Once changed, you'll need to update your academic records, documents, and passport, the staff member asked. I nodded and replied, "Yes, I'm sure." The staff member continued to persuade me. "Changing your name as an adult can be quite troublesome, and your original name is quite nice too. Would you like to reconsider?" I answered, "No reconsideration." I signed the name change consent form and said, "Thank you." "All right, the name you want to change it to is Liberty, correct?" The staff member asked. "Yes," I said. "Liberty, freedom, flying towards the horizon. This is the future I've planned for myself. I'm going to leave here for good." I asked, "Can I now go and change the name on my passport?" The staff member replied, "Yes. Here is your name change receipt. You can take this to the window downstairs to update your passport." I quickly completed the passport update, but nothing else. My degree certificate, household registration, nothing was changed. Anyway, I'll be leaving with my new passport in a week. My old identity will stay behind forever, and I don't need it anymore. With my new passport in hand, I walked out of the service hall, facing the landmark building of H City. On the large screen of the building, there was an interview with Katerina, the CEO of Penguin Group. The host, keen-eyed, noticed her small gestures and laughingly asked, "Mrs. Ma, I've noticed you keep stroking your ring, but it seems like just a simple silver ring. Is there something special about it?" Katerina smiled gently, raised her hand for him to see, and said, "This is my wedding ring." The host replied, "Ah, sorry, I thought with your success, your wedding ring would surely be a diamond, and a large one at that." Katerina said, "My wedding ring was made by me. I polished it little by little, and even engraved both mine and my husband's names on the inside." "Wow, there are 2 letters. It's Katerina and..." Katerina said, "Henry. My husband's name is Henry." The host said, "Wow, I envy your husband. He must have saved the galaxy in his past life to marry someone like you." "Mrs. Ma," Katerina simply responded, "You've got it backwards. Actually, I must have saved the galaxy in my past life to marry him." Around us, nearly everyone was speaking in envious tones, except for one person, me, Henry, who let out a sarcastic laugh. "Katerina and I once truly loved each other. From school uniforms to wedding dresses, we spent 15 years together. To our classmates and teachers, we were the perfect couple. Until 2 months ago, I received a photo from a strange man. The boy appeared to be in his early 20s, wearing only a small pair of swimming trunks. His neck and chest were covered with bruises. It was obvious he had just experienced a rough night. He flashed a V sign at the camera, and on his index finger, there was a silver ring. Later, I met that boy in Katerina's office. His name was Oberon, freshly graduated from college at 21, and he was Katerina's new personal assistant. At that moment, my mind was a bit foggy. I really wanted to rush into Katerina's office and ask, "Does the term personal assistant include night shifts?" But in the end, I gave up. The bruises on Oberon's body in that photo already spoke for themselves. I left the scene amidst a chorus of admiration and envy, then turned and went to a jewelry shop. When I took off the ring from my left ring finger, it felt like a sharp pain shot through my heart. The staff asked, "Sir, what kind of jewelry would you like us to make?" I replied, "This ring. Please melt it down," he said. "But this ring has engravings. It must have some special meaning. Are you sure you want to melt it?" I answered, "Yes, please do it as soon as possible." Half an hour later, I returned home with a beautifully packaged jewelry box. Katerina came home around 10 p.m. She was holding a bouquet of flowers and said to me, "Sorry, Henry, I've been busy with work and haven't had time to be with you. I brought you your favorite potted plant. Do you like it?" When she got close, I could smell the scent of cigarette smoke on her, and when I turned my head, I saw a small hickey on her neck. It was red and obvious. I gave a cold laugh. Was she busy with work, or busy having fun with Oberon? She asked, "Why aren't you saying anything?" I pushed her away and said, "I'm just a bit tired." She said, "Then let's go rest." I pushed her away again and said, "You're tired too. Go take a shower and rest early." Katerina reached out to hold my hand, but then she noticed something. She asked, "Henry, where's your wedding ring?" Chapter 2, I responded. "I took it off." She asked, "But this is something I made with my own hands. A proof of our love. Why take it off?" I vaguely answered, "I've gained some weight recently, and it's no longer the right size. Katerina's expression softened, and she smiled again. She said, then I'll take it to the jewelry store to resize it. I replied. We'll see. She asked, by the way, what's that on the table? Katerina pointed to a beautiful jewelry box on the table, and with some surprise, she asked, Henry, is this a gift for me? I nodded. Yes. Inside was a small silver block. I had melted our wedding rings and placed them inside. Katerina, however, cheerfully said, what day is it today? Did my husband prepare a gift for me? My heart sank again, more than half gone. I said, today is our wedding anniversary. Katerina's face instantly turned pale. She almost begged me. Sorry, Henry, I've been so busy with work lately. How about we go out for dinner tonight? I'll make a reservation right now, I responded. No need, I've already eaten, she said. Then how about we go out for a night walk, a stroll by the river? I'm tired. I want to sleep. Katerina, attempting to please me, wrapped her arms around my waist from behind and said, come on, Henry. It's been so long since we walked together. I've felt like you've been a little distant lately. If this keeps up, I'll start thinking my Henry has lost interest. Had I lost interest? She was the one who had someone else in her heart first. She was the one who had already drifted away from me. And this time, I would take back my heart forever, along with myself. On the way out, Katerina drove, chatting and laughing with me about what she'd seen recently. I sat in the passenger seat, looking out the window, pretending not to hear, because just earlier, when I was buckling my seatbelt, I had reached into the gap between the passenger seat and pulled out a torn stocking. I shoved it back in, pretending nothing had happened. Since I had already decided to leave, I didn't want to argue with her anymore. There was nothing to be gained except useless lies. If I couldn't get anything, I would simply stop wanting it. By the river, Katerina got out of the car and opened the door for me, saying, Henry, we're here. I didn't really want to come, but this riverbank was a place we used to visit often when we first got together. If this is where it started, then let it end here. Someone said, wow, isn't that the Ma from the TV today, the one who made her own wedding rings? I remember. She's so beautiful and gentle, an absolutely perfect wife. Ugh, they're so sweet. Just then, Katerina's phone rang. She looked at me apologetically and said, sorry, Henry, it's work. Let me take this call. I'll be right back, I responded. Go ahead, she said. Wait for me here. There was a murmur of admiration around us. Someone said, they're so in love, Mom. I believe in love again. I was the only one standing by the river, face stiff, staring at the glimmering water in the night. When Katerina saw the caller ID, the smile at the corner of her lips was almost impossible to hide. Affection, sweetness, and a bit of teasing. How could it be work? But I couldn't be bothered to expose her. It was a bit cold by the river, so I went back to the car to wait. On the car screen, Katerina's social media account was still logged in, connected to her phone. The chat history was still scrolling by. The person on the other end was called Little Greedy Cat Oberon. Katerina wrote, miss me. Little Greedy Cat replied, it's a bit lonely at night without you. Katerina responded, Little Greedy Cat, how many times is this not enough? Little Greedy Cat wrote, it's not enough. Every night, I start thinking of you. Katerina replied, fine. Wait until tomorrow at the office. I'll satisfy you. Little Greedy Cat wrote, okay, remember to wear stockings. I like that. The following conversation was even more disgusting, full of dirty words and flirting. I felt a chill down my spine and turned off the screen. I was trembling, unsure if it was from the cold or from anger. My nails dug into my flesh. Katerina returned quickly. About 15 minutes later, when she got back in the car, she placed her hand over her chest and sighed deeply. I was so scared. I turned around and couldn't see you. I didn't want to look at her fake face anymore, so I kept my head down, staring at my hands. I said, it's cold outside, so I came back to the car. She said, okay, stay wherever you like. I suddenly looked up, having seen their chat history. Those words took on a new meaning for me. Stay wherever you like. The stockings in the gap of the passenger seat, had they done it there, too? I suddenly felt disgusted. I pushed the car door open and threw up. Chapter 3. Katerina was frantic, rushing over to check on me. She asked, Henry, what's wrong? I was vomiting uncontrollably, and it took me a long time to gather my senses. I didn't understand. Why would Katerina, who loved me so much, cheat on me? Didn't she fear I would find out? Or did she think she was clever enough to hide it from me forever? The evening breeze blew, and my mind cleared a bit. Katerina asked, are you okay? Henry, if you're feeling unwell, I can take you to the hospital right now. I replied, no, I think I just ate something bad at dinner. She said, then tomorrow, come to the office and we'll have lunch together. I sneered. Was she inviting me to watch her and Oberon make love in the office? Suddenly, I had the urge to play a prank, so I said, "Sure, I'll come with you to the office tomorrow morning, accompany you at work, and we'll have lunch together, then we'll go home together at night." Katerina didn't expect me to agree. Her expression became hesitant, and she said, "But I've been really busy lately. I might not be able to stay with you the whole time. You do your work. I'll wait for you in your office." Okay then. Back at home, Katerina offered to draw a bath for me. She went into the bathroom but strangely closed the door behind her. I went downstairs, sat back in the car, and started the engine. The screen immediately displayed the latest chat log. Katerina had written, "The situation has changed. We can't meet at the office tomorrow." Little greedy cat replied, "I'm a bit disappointed." Katerina, "Don't be disappointed, little pervert. Tomorrow we'll do it on the rooftop. Even more exciting." Little greedy cat replied, "Yay." When I returned to the bedroom, Katerina had just come out of the bathroom. She said, "Henry, the bath water's ready. You should soak for a bit." I replied, "No, I want to rest." She said, "Okay, then sleep if you're tired. By the way, that gift you left on the table, can I open it now?" I replied, "Open it in a week." She asked, "Why wait a week? I want to see what gift our Henry has prepared for me." I thought, because in a week, I'll be gone forever, but I didn't say that. Instead, I said, because in a week, this gift will have meaning. Katerina kissed me lightly on the lips and said, "Okay, I'll listen to you." The next morning, Katerina's phone started ringing around 6. She pressed the button to decline, then turned to hold me, saying, "Let's ignore them and sleep for a bit more." But the phone kept ringing insistently. Katerina frowned and said irritably, "It's not even working hours. Why are they rushing me this early? This useless group of executives needs to be fired soon." She turned off the phone again. When it rang the third time, Katerina angrily got out of bed. "Honey, you sleep for a little longer. I'll go check what urgent matters they have for me," I murmured. I turned over, my back facing her. Katerina left the bedroom with the phone. But soon, I saw her figure outside the front door. There was a delivery man in yellow standing outside, handing her a package. Katerina took it, but when she came back, her hands were empty. I asked her, "Is there something serious going on at the company?" Katerina replied, "It's fine, honey, don't worry, just rest. I'll make you breakfast." I wasn't sure if it was guilt or genuine concern for my stomach, but Katerina made an extravagant breakfast. Milk, eggs, bread, jam, and my favorite oatmeal. She said, "From now on, you can't eat junk food. I'll hire someone to come every day to cook for you." I replied, "No need," she said. "Be good, honey, you have to listen to me. Otherwise, I won't feel at ease going to work." I responded, "Katerina, can I ask you something?" "Sure, ask away." I put down my knife and fork and asked casually, "Do you believe in the 7-year itch?" Katerina immediately showed a look of disgust and said, "That's just an excuse for other women to cheat. I'm different. I will only love our Henry in this lifetime." I chuckled. "You'll love only me for your whole life?" She replied, "Yes." I asked, "Then what if you fall in love with another man?" She said, "Then let me be struck by 5 lightning bolts and die miserably." I gave a sarcastic laugh and said, "Such a heavy oath. Aren't you afraid it will come true?" She responded, "I'm telling the truth. Why should I be afraid?" I picked up my knife and fork again, spreading jam on my bread. Katerina said, "Honey, you have to trust me." I simply replied, "Let's eat." She said, "You still don't trust me. Do I need to cut open my heart for you to believe me?" I answered, "There are still people waiting for you at the company. Don't be late." Katerina finally relaxed, sitting across from me and saying, "Let them wait longer. A bunch of useless people. I'll fire them soon enough." I asked, "Fire him? Would you really do that?" I said him, not them. I wasn't sure if Katerina heard it or not, but she replied, "Except for you, I have nothing I would hesitate to give up." Chapter 4. After breakfast, the two of us headed to the company together, but I really couldn't stand sitting in the front seat, so I insisted on sitting in the back. I said, "I get motion sickness. The back seat is more comfortable and I can get some fresh air." Katerina didn't push me any further and said, "All right, I'll try to drive more smoothly." When we arrived at the company entrance, Katerina jogged over to open the car door for me. As I got out of the car, I was once again surrounded by employees during the rush hour. A few executives even jogged over, flattered and said, "Mr. Han is here. Ma mentions you love coffee. I'll go buy some for you right away." Another one said, "Then I'll get some Japanese food. Ma said you like Japanese food the most." Katerina laughed and said, "You all better stop feeding him. My husband's getting a bit chubby. His wedding ring doesn't fit anymore." "That's not true. Ma. He looks slim to me." "It's the ring. It must have shrunk." "Go on. Keep flattering me. But this is too obvious. Silver doesn't shrink." "You don't understand. MS. Ma loves Mr. Han so much. As long as he's happy, she's happy. Aren't we all living the good life because of it? Katerina smiled and said sweetly, all right. You found my soft spot. Everyone laughed. I was almost escorted into Katerina's office by the crowd. Fruits, snacks, coffee, everything was available. Katerina also found me a football match on her computer and said, honey, I have to go get busy. You stay here and relax. If you need anything, just call Xiao Wang outside. I purposely asked, where's your assistant Oberon? I didn't see him today. Katerina replied, I don't know. I'll have HR give him a call later. Before leaving, Katerina lovingly ruffled my hair and whispered, wait for me to come back. We'll have lunch together. Katerina left. The executives also left, but I noticed her phone was left on the desk. I hurried outside, just in time to overhear the conversation of those executives. They were saying, the rooftop, MS. Ma and Oberon are getting more and more bold. Well, what can we do? Who knew Mr. Han was coming to the company today? They had to change the location. Are we still supposed to deliver condoms to MS. Ma today? No need. I saw her pocketing several boxes when she went up earlier. Ha ha ha. MS. Ma's impressive. Buying condoms right under her husband's nose. Just call a courier. It's so convenient now. They can buy anything. I suddenly understood. The persistent phone calls this morning were from the courier. She had placed an order early in the morning for the courier to buy condoms, apparently preparing for the rooftop meeting today. They continued chatting. I wonder if a few boxes will be enough. Last time, MS. Ma and Oberon spent a whole day and night in the car. And the next day at work, MS. Ma was walking funny. If they run out, just send more. As subordinates, we have to serve our boss well. Weren't you just saying we should serve Mr. Han well? The other person replied, what does he understand? A cup of coffee can win him over. Someone like MS. Ma, with her status, doesn't everyone have a few puppies on the side? It's normal, as long as her husband doesn't find out. True, he looks so honest. It shouldn't be hard to hide it from him. Just then, Katerina appeared. She said, don't talk nonsense in front of my husband. Got it? The executives nodded repeatedly. Got it, MS. Ma. We understand. One of them asked, MS. Ma, why did you bring Mr. Han today? You and Oberon still have to hide on the rooftop, and we have to be so careful with what we say around him. Katerina glared at him and said, Henry is my husband. If he wants to come, he can come. No need for you to comment on it. Yes. Katerina then sternly warned, take good care of Henry. He had a bad stomach yesterday. Don't let him eat anything cold or raw. And if anyone dares to talk about me and Oberon, I'll have them pack up and leave immediately. Understood? The executives all nodded with forced smiles. I didn't hear the rest of the conversation. I quickly returned to Katerina's office and placed her phone among the snacks. After a while, Katerina returned. She was still the same gentle Katerina, and said, little glutton, why are you eating so happily? The words, little glutton, made me feel a wave of disgust. I fought the discomfort and asked, weren't you going to a meeting? Why are you back already? She said, I left my phone here. Did you see it? I shook my head. Katerina rummaged through the snacks and found the phone. She said, so it was hidden in the snacks. Well, enjoy your snacks. I'm heading out now. Ding ding ding. My phone rang. I picked it up. The other person asked, hello, is this Mr. Liberty? Yes, this is he, Mr. Xiang. Your flight to Norway, scheduled for a week from now, has been successfully booked. Just bring your passport with you when you board. I asked, do I need to bring any other documents? No, just the passport will be fine. Okay. I hung up, and Katerina, puzzled, asked, passport? Honey, what do you need a passport for? Chapter 5, I said, it's a friend of mine. He lost his passport and asked me how to replace it. Katerina took a couple of quick steps and hugged me tightly, saying, you scared me. I thought you were going abroad without taking me. I turned my head and vomited again. She smelled strongly of a sweet, fishy scent, mixed with sweat and the scent of a man's cigarette smoke. Katerina gently patted my back and said, what did they feed you? I specifically told them to take care of your stomach these past couple of days. You wait here. I'll go fire them all. I used all my strength to push her away. I said, fire whoever you want. Just stop using me as an excuse. Katerina was a little taken aback by my sudden outburst. She asked, honey, are you mad at me? Because I've been busy with work and didn't spend time with you today. She said, then how about this? Tomorrow I'll cancel all my work and just spend the day with you. Is that all right? I laughed bitterly. I asked, just spend the day with me? Yes, just you and me. I took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. I hope you keep your word. That night, out of nowhere, it suddenly started pouring rain. Ever since I returned home, I had been vomiting nonstop. Katerina wanted to come near me, but I harshly rejected her, saying, "Don't come near me. The smell on you makes me want to puke even more." Katerina sniffed her sleeve and said, "Maybe it's the perfume you don't like. I'll switch to a different scent next time." I said, "Katerina, you should know it's not the perfume that's the problem." She said, all right, don't be mad. I won't wear any perfume from now on. Is that better?" I splashed cold water on my face and looked up, staring at my reflection in the mirror, and outside the bathroom, Katerina was anxiously holding a pot of hot water, waiting. I couldn't understand it. Why, even with the strong, sweet scent of intimacy clinging to her, could she still act so seriously as if she loved me? I couldn't grasp why Katerina seemed to care about me, yet still, without hesitation, betrayed our relationship. Hadn't the executive been right? People with money and power always play around, thinking they could fool me. He was wrong about me. I'm not so easily fooled, and I haven't given up on my principles. If her love is no longer wholehearted, then I don't want any of it. The next morning, Katerina took me to the hospital. After a series of tests, the doctor concluded, "It's likely emotional gastritis." Katerina asked, "What's emotional gastritis?" "It's when the patient has been under a lot of emotional stress recently, which causes a significant impact on their body, leading to digestive problems and resulting in vomiting." Katerina asked me, "Henry, have you been upset about something recently? If you want to talk, maybe I can help you with it." I turned my face away and avoided her closeness, saying, "You can't solve it." She said, "Come on, tell me. There's hardly anything in this world that I can't fix." Well, actually, this was something only she could fix. For a moment, I thought about asking her, if both Oberon and I were kidnapped by kidnappers, who would she save first? But then I realized, I know martial arts. I can save myself. I don't need Katerina anymore. In Norway, I had applied to an art school under the name of Liberty. In the past, I had given up on my dream of painting in order to marry Katerina, but from now on, I would live for myself. Katerina said, "Honey, how about I take you to see a movie in the afternoon? There's a comedy that'll make you happy." I asked, "In the afternoon, don't you have work?" She said, "Didn't we agree? I'm spending the whole day with you today. I keep my promises. I'll never go back on my word." The next moment, her phone rang. She was about to reject the call but paused when she saw the caller ID. I watched her expression change, from irritation to hesitation. I laughed. "Answer it. Company matters are important." Katerina said, "I'll be quick. Just give me 5 minutes." "All right." Katerina stood up to leave, but I stopped her, saying, "Answer it here. I don't understand your company's matters. Don't worry about me spilling anything." Katerina hesitated for a moment, then awkwardly stopped and, after 2 seconds, answered the call, frowning. "I told you not to call me today. What's the matter?" I could faintly hear a man's voice complaining on the other end. Katerina spoke cautiously. "All right, I understand. Wait a moment." She hung up and apologized, saying, "Henry, there's an important document at the company that I need to sign. The manager has already brought it to the hospital and is downstairs. I'll sign it and be back in half an hour." I nodded. Katerina practically ran out of the consultation room. The doctor smiled and said, "Mr. Hahn, MS. Ma really loves you. She even put her work aside for you. Is that so?" I forced a smile. "Sorry, doctor. I need to use the restroom." Of course. Chapter 6. As I left the consultation room, I saw Katerina rushing down the stairs, not waiting for the elevator. She really went downstairs, but the floor below was the obstetrics and gynecology department. Buzz. My phone vibrated. Message from Oberon, "Mr. Hahn. I'm so sorry. She probably won't be able to accompany you today. One phone call, and she'll come running to me." I opened the image Oberon had sent. It was her ultrasound report. She was pregnant with my child. I zoomed in and finally made out the first line on the report. "Embryo at 8 weeks. Signs of a threatened miscarriage." Oberon taunted, "We spent the whole day on the rooftop yesterday, trying all kinds of positions. I guess we went too rough, and the baby's showing signs of a threatened miscarriage. Well, it's her fault. She said she was bored with the usual routine at home, but when she's with me, she wants something more exciting." Oberon continued, "I'm concerned about her health. I've asked her to come down for a checkup. After all, compared to gastritis, the baby's more important, don't you think?" I left the hospital by myself in a taxi. I went to a law firm. I said, "Hello, I'd like to hire your firm to draft a divorce agreement." I didn't ask for anything specific, and the lawyer was very efficient. Half an hour later, I had the full divorce agreement. The lawyer said, "You don't need the wife's signature. Once you've been separated for 2 years, this agreement will automatically take effect." When I came out with the divorce agreement, Katerina called me. She asked, "Honey, where are you? I can't find you anywhere in the hospital." I said, "I waited for you, but when I couldn't find you, I just went home." She said, "Good, as long as you're home safe." "I'm sorry, There's something at the company I need to take care of. I'll be going on a business trip soon, so you'll have to take care of yourself at home. But next week, I'll cancel everything and spend the whole week with you. I sighed deeply. Lies can be repeated 1,000 times, but no one will believe them. I no longer had any emotional reaction. I said, "Okay, go ahead," she said. "Our Henry is so thoughtful. I love you." I asked, "Love me? Katerina, do you just like men who play games? Am I too boring for you?" Katerina froze for a moment and said, "Of course not. I like you just the way you are." I asked, "Katerina, would you fall in love with another man?" "Of course not," I said. "If you change your heart, I'll leave you forever." Katerina chuckled and said, "Go ahead and run. I can lock down the airports and train stations. As long as you're still called Henry, I'll never let you leave me." I smiled and thought, "But on my passport, I don't go by Henry anymore. I go by Liberty." I emphasized once again, "I'm serious. I have ways to leave you and make sure you can never find me." Katerina kept laughing, like she was teasing a dog. She said, "All right, run if you can. I'll give you 3 days, and then I'll come find you." I told you, as long as you're still called Henry, I can find you anywhere. You won't be able to escape me. Escape? I laughed. Let's see if she's right. Chapter 7. There are 3 days left before my flight. Oberon sent me a picture of Katerina at a barbecue on the beach. He wrote, "To celebrate the closeness of our love, we're vacationing in the Maldives." I didn't reply. He had just gathered a few close friends for a final gathering. After all, it might be the last time they meet. I enjoyed the gathering. 2 days before the flight, Oberon sent another picture of Katerina reading a book. The book was titled The Baby's Early Education Guide. Oberon wrote, "New moms are really focused on their baby's education. She's already researching early childhood education." I still didn't reply. I went to the bank, exchanged all the money in my account for euros, in cash, and cancelled all my bank cards. 1 day before the flight. This time, Oberon sent a video. The video showed a beautiful, romantic firework display over the sea. Oberon wrote, "She rented out the entire island, and bought out all the fireworks in the Maldives, just for my birthday." So today was Oberon's birthday, with a birthday and a pregnancy. For them, it must be double the joy. After watching, I only smiled faintly. Then I called a local charity. I said, "Hello, I have a batch of clothes I'd like to donate to impoverished mountain regions." Soon, a representative from the charity organization arrived in a car. During the days Katerina was away, I had already packed everything up. 5 large bags of clothes and shoes. I donated them all, not leaving a single item behind. My ID, household registration, diploma, and other documents that belonged to me, along with all my daily belongings in the house, I took straight to the crematorium, gave the staff a sum of money, and asked them to burn everything. Standing in the house I had lived in for 5 years, I felt a little unfamiliar. The house had been cleaned out thoroughly. There wasn't a trace of me left. I only had a backpack with me. Inside, there was just my passport. If there were any old belongings left, it was my phone. I called a taxi with my phone and headed to the airport. The driver stopped at the terminal entrance, and just as I was about to pay for the ride, I received a call from Katerina. She said, "Henry, I'm back from my business trip. I'll come pick you up and we can go out to eat." She was back, and Oberon was with her. I sat in the car and witnessed them both walking out of the terminal. Oberon was pushing a luggage cart, with 2 suitcases, one blue and one pink, obviously matching couple luggage. Katerina was clinging to his arm, leaning against his shoulder, looking every bit like a loving married couple. On the phone, I asked, "Was the business trip tiring?" She replied, "It's all right, not too tiring. By the way, I remember you said I could open the gift you gave me today, right?" "Yes," she said, "I'm really excited. I've been guessing what you might get me all week. For our anniversary, it must be something meaningful, right?" I responded, "Very meaningful. You'll see when you open it." She said, "All right, I'll be home in about 2 hours. 2 hours would be enough. By then, my plane should have already crossed the border." I said, "Okay." She said, "I'll see you soon. Love you, Henry." I hung up, and I saw Oberon frown in displeasure. Katerina stood on her tiptoes and kissed him on the lips, as if to comfort him. The driver reminded me, "Sir, you haven't paid yet." I turned my attention back to him, scanned the payment QR code, and transferred all the money in my WeChat account to him. The driver looked startled and said, "Sir, you've entered the wrong amount. It's 130 yuan, not 13,000. Let me refund you." I said, "No need." As I pushed the car door open and got out, "I won't need it anymore. Thank you for bringing me here." He replied, "No worries. It's my job, and you've paid the fare, so I had to bring you here." I said, "That's different. You brought me here, to the rebirth road of my future." I got out of the car, turned off my phone, took out the SIM card, and casually threw it in the trash can. Then I gave the phone to a young child nearby. The child happily said, "Thank you, big brother." I smiled and patted her on the head, saying, "You're welcome." The child's mother felt awkward and said, "Such an expensive item, we can't accept it." I asked, "Are you going abroad?" "Yes, we're going to Africa to find her father." I smiled and said, "Then take it. You might need it in Africa." She said, "All right, thank you." I waved goodbye to them. Safe travels. The broadcast was making an announcement. "Liberty, please make your way to gate H23 for boarding. Your flight is about to depart." I held my passport tightly, took one last look back, and resolutely walked toward the gate. Chapter 8. Katerina hung up the phone, seemingly unaware of any changes, but Oberon, on the other hand, wasn't very happy. He said, "The days when you belong to only me are coming so soon. After that, we'll have to hide and sneak around again." Upon hearing this, Katerina gave him a slightly warning tone and replied, "Don't let me sense anything unusual, or you know the consequences." Oberon sighed and said, Fine, I know. You've said it 100 times already." When Katerina saw that he was even more upset, she lowered her head and tried to comfort him. "All right, I won't say it again." Oberon shook his head and said, "You need to make it up to me." Katerina replied, "I'll apologize. How about I buy you a pair of sneakers? Which one do you like?" Oberon raised his head and said, "Let's go back to the company before you go home. Let's do it one more time." Katerina hesitated slightly and replied, "I've already told Henry I'll be home in 2 hours. There won't be enough time. You could just say there was traffic on the way. After all, the airport highway is always congested." Katerina glanced at the time and was still unsure. Oberon then pulled her in and kissed her lips. At first, Katerina pushed him away, but soon, the push turned into an embrace. After a passionate kiss, Katerina's fire was ignited. She whispered with a teasing laugh, "Little glutton." Oberon smiled and said, "Let's go back to the company, just for one last crazy time." Katerina didn't respond. Instead, she quickly grabbed his hand and headed for the parking garage. Oberon chuckled, The luggage. Katerina replied, "Forget it." In the car, they had a playful moment before heading back to the company, where they spent another 2 hours in madness. When it was finally over, Katerina remembered to call me. "The phone you are trying to reach is turned off." Katerina felt something was wrong. "I never turn off my phone." Oberon happened to bring her a cup of coffee and, without any reservation, pulled her into his arms. He said, "Why are you in such a rush? It's just that your phone ran out of battery." Then, he tried to please her. "I made the coffee for you. Do you want me to feed it to you?" Though life seemed the same as before, Katerina couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. At first, she couldn't pinpoint it, but soon she felt like something was missing, and even the temperature of the coffee was a bit off. Frowning, she stood up and said, "Forget it. Bring me a cup of hot tea instead." Oberon leaned in again and asked, "What's the matter? Do you want to change the flavor?" The word again made Katerina uncomfortable. She lowered her voice and said, "Stop it. I'm not in the mood right now." Oberon replied, "You're just overreacting. He's at home by himself. What could happen?" This time, Katerina became a little upset. She said, "Go and change it. Don't make me repeat myself." Oberon didn't say anything else and immediately went to do as she asked. His role was that of a gentle and obedient puppy, always doing what she wanted without arguing. When the assistant came in with the schedule, they were just as meek and didn't dare make a sound. He said, "Ma, you have a meeting this afternoon, and it's almost time." Katerina originally planned to go home, have dinner with me, and then return to the company to work. The timing was perfect for that, but now, most of the time had been spent fooling around with Oberon, and with the meeting about to start, she didn't have time to go home anymore. She glanced at the work schedule and without lifting her head asked, "How much longer until the afternoon meeting?" The assistant quickly calculated the time and reported, "About an hour." Katerina stood up and said, "I need to go home for a while. If the meeting has already started by the time I get back, don't wait for me. Just proceed as usual." She didn't explain why, simply picked up her car keys and walked out, without even bothering to call the driver. This caused Oberon to feel a sense of urgency. He hurried over to the office door and blocked her way, saying, "Aren't I here with you? Why do you need to go see another man?" Katerina wasn't in the mood for idle conversation and pushed his hand away, saying, "Don't say such things again." Oberon, displeased, said, "No, I don't want to share you with anyone else." The moment those words were spoken, the most nervous person in the room was the assistant. They looked around frantically, wishing they could just jump out of the window. It was the 40th floor, after all, but at least it would be over. Katerina turned her gaze to Oberon, her expression serious and stern. Her voice also carried a warning as she said, "I've told you from the very beginning to understand your position. Henry is my husband, and that will never change." Chapter 9. Oberon fell silent, frustrated but unwilling to speak up. He knew that both the title of husband and Katerina's wealth would eventually be his. But as they say, haste makes waste. So he reluctantly decided to endure for now. Katerina had not been home during the day for quite some time. As she stood in the familiar villa, she felt a strange sense of unfamiliarity mixed with freshness. The saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder, probably applied here. Henry, I'm back. She called my name cheerfully as she walked through the yard and entered the living room. The flowers and plants in the yard were neatly trimmed, and the interior decorations were just as they had always been, spotless and elegant, reflecting the owner's taste and style. This was all my doing. Katerina wanted to embrace me and say, "You've worked hard, darling," but as she looked around, she couldn't find me anywhere. So, she asked the housekeeper, "Where's Mr. Hahn? Has he gone out? At this hour, I should have been home." The maids exchanged glances. Unable to answer, they said, "We haven't seen him this morning." Katerina frowned. "You don't even know if he had breakfast?" None of them responded. They all thought to themselves, "Shouldn't you, as his wife, know where he is? What are you asking us for?" Katerina sensed the subtle tension in the air. She lowered her hands and, finding no answers, decided to take matters into her own hands. "Forget it. It's no use asking you. I'll find him myself." She thought I was probably still sleeping, like back in our student days, so she quietly tiptoed upstairs. But my absence continued. The bedroom was just as she remembered, but there was no sign of me. The windows and curtains were open, with sunlight flooding the room, creating a warm, cozy atmosphere. But in this peaceful environment, the one person who should have been there was missing. I was gone. Katerina instinctively walked over to the vanity and noticed a letter tucked beneath a box. It was from me. The last 2 lines I had written for her. I wrote, "I know everything about you and Oberon. I'm leaving. Don't look for me." I hadn't even signed it. And that was how our years together came to a quiet, indifferent end. She had no idea. I had long run out of things to say to her. Katerina immediately tried calling me, but I didn't answer. Her fingers gripped the letter, crumpling its edges without her realizing it. She stubbornly continued dialing, pressing the call button over and over, while searching every corner of the house, unwilling to give up. But whether it was the garden, where I liked to tend to my flowers, or the rooftop swing where I used to gaze at the stars, there was no sign of me. I was truly gone. "Sorry, the number you are trying to reach is currently unavailable." By the time she heard this message for the umpteenth time, reality began to sink in. I wasn't going to answer her calls. There had to be another way. Stay calm. Stay calm. Katerina slapped her face a few times, trying to snap out of her panic. Finally, she opened her contacts and began looking for the numbers of our mutual friends. We had known each other for many years, once being the model couple that went from school uniforms to wedding dresses. We knew each other's lives and social circles inside and out. Katerina first called one of my friends. The person didn't answer at first, but by the 3rd call, they reluctantly picked up. Upon hearing her purpose, the friend gave a cold laugh and said, "You're his wife. If you can't even find him, what makes you think I would know?" The phone was hung up immediately. Katerina didn't have time to dwell on her friend's rude attitude. She quickly moved on to call another one, but the result was the same, and the others had their own criticisms of her, though they didn't speak their minds out of courtesy. The way they interacted with Katerina had been visibly strained in recent years. Still, she refused to give up. She dialed the last of our old classmates and pressed, "Has he contacted anyone recently? If he was really going to leave, he must have talked it over with someone, right?" Her old classmate seemed to think it was a joke and replied, "You're his closest person, his pillow partner. If you didn't notice any signs, what makes you think anyone else would know? Maybe you should think about the arguments you've had recently." Katerina fell silent. It had been a long time since they had sat down and talked properly. If they still had arguments, maybe I would never have gone so far as to leave. She hung up the call with the last friend and felt a growing sense of panic. The bedroom, like every other room in the house, remained the same, but all of my things were gone. Chapter 10. The more Katerina thought about it, the more anxious she became. She feared I had acted on impulse and might be staying in a hotel, only to realize he was missing something important. Worse, she feared I had forgotten something vital in the rush of traveling or had no money to spend, and so she impulsively logged into her bank account to send me money. She didn't even bother to check how much she had transferred, just knowing that she had typed in a few zeros, genuinely worried that I might face difficulties while away. What she didn't know was that I had never needed her financial support. It didn't take long for a call from the bank's customer service. "Miss Ma, the transfer you attempted has failed." Katerina, already on the verge of breaking down, lost all semblance of her usual composure. She asked immediately, "Was there a problem with the transfer limits or the number of transactions?" "I can prove that it was me making the request. I can provide the verification code and signature. I need to send money to my husband." She didn't even remember the last time she had personally transferred money to me. It felt like it had been ages. Ever since her wealth and rising social status, she had become detached from many of the mundane details of daily life. Our wedding anniversary had been handled by an event planning company. The gifts were purchased by assistants, and even household expenses were automatically deducted. On their own, these were small matters, but together, they formed a pile that, in the end, could break the camel's back. It dawned on Katerina, far too late, that without meaning to, she and I had drifted so far apart. The regret hit her hard, and her desire to make amends grew stronger. But the bank representative informed her, "Miss Ma, there is no issue on your end, but the account to which you are trying to transfer funds no longer exists." "Why?" the representative explained. "That card was cancelled yesterday." "Yesterday?" Katerina repeated her question in disbelief, and after receiving confirmation from the representative, she hung up the phone, exhausted. She put her hand to her face and let out a sob. If only she had called me even once these past few days, she would have noticed something was wrong, but she hadn't. Now, it was too late. An hour passed quickly, but Katerina was no longer focused on work. She spent her time frantically searching through my social media accounts, hoping to find some trace of me. Perhaps, she thought, I had shared something online under an alias. Katerina didn't use social media much, but she remembered my account name. No matter which platform I used, I always called myself Big Orange. She first opened WeChat and found that our chat history had long since stopped, frozen on a past day. As for my account, it had been deactivated. Where my profile picture once was, there was now only a gray default avatar. It felt like a punch to her chest. She moved on to search for Big Orange on other platforms, but the result was the same. Either the user no longer existed, or the account had clearly been taken over by someone else. She spent hours scrolling, searching tirelessly. Eventually, she found only a few scattered posts where people had shared my messages. The Big Orange ID had completely disappeared. Katerina, unwilling to give up, called the platform's customer service. She provided them with my personal details, demanding, "I've read your platform's rules. A deactivated account can be reactivated within 7 days. I need to recover his data." The customer service representative refused, saying, "I'm sorry, but the account can only be reactivated by the account holder themselves." Katerina argued, "I'm his wife. Can't I reactivate it on his behalf?" "I'm sorry, ma'am," came the polite reply. Frustrated, Katerina said, "Fine, I'll file a complaint and you'll be hearing from the court. Don't think I don't know you have access to this information. It can't be that hard to restore the account data." The representative responded calmly, "Feel free to do so." They were used to dealing with difficult customers and were unshaken by her threats. Knowing that any legal process would take time and effort, Katerina, seeing that her threats had no effect, felt a sudden wave of defeat. She hung up the phone and quickly reached out to a contact at the platform. Asking for help in a more measured tone, she said, "I understand your policy, but my husband is missing. Before he disappeared, he took nothing with him, not even his social media accounts or bank card. If you can't help me recover his data, I'll truly have no leads left. Please, I'm begging you." Chapter 11. Katerina rarely humbled herself, but for me, she had no choice but to do so. Luckily, after confirming that her husband was indeed missing, the platform's representative relented and agreed to help her. She was finally able to access my social media account. My profile picture was a painting I had done, conveying a quiet, serene vibe that perfectly matched the sense of calm my username, and the account itself, gave off. I wasn't a very talkative person, but unexpectedly, I had documented our life online over the years. I was one of the first users of the social platform, and my earliest post came soon after we had started dating. The first entry read simply, "We're together," accompanied by a smiley face emoji. The emoticons from back then seemed outdated now, but Katerina smiled softly at the memory, feeling the sweetness from when we had first fallen in love. I used to enjoy sharing snippets of my life on that account, my sketches in my spare time, gifts Katerina had given me during our relationship, wedding photos, and photos of the garden we had carefully cultivated together after marriage. Katerina scrolled through it all, feeling her heart soften with every post, as if a piece of it was crumbling away. But as she continued to reminisce, she noticed that I hadn't posted any new pictures or shared anything for a long time. The most recent post was from half a year ago, a photo of the starry sky taken while sitting on the rooftop swing. What had happened during that time? She tried to recall, and then it clicked. This was around the time when she had started her affair with Oberon. She had thought she was being discreet, but it turned out there had been signs all along, little details that had betrayed her. A wave of intense regret hit Katerina. With trembling hands, she clicked on the last text post I had made. It was sent late last night, and the message was extremely brief. "This is the end." There were no hidden hints in my words, but Katerina knew instinctively that this message was for her. It was the final statement. closing the chapter on everything we had shared over the years. Katerina spent the entire day in a daze. As night fell, the once warm and familiar home felt cold and alien. She lay alone in bed, engulfed by a crushing sense of emptiness. It was a feeling unlike anything she had ever experienced. Her phone buzzed several times by her pillow. Oberon was texting, trying to get her to go out, but she didn't even look at his messages. She lay there, sleepless, until well past midnight. And finally, unable to sleep, she turned on the bedside lamp and moved to the spot where I used to lie. She wanted to feel the warmth of my presence, even if only for a moment. At least I should have been here last night, right? She thought to herself, trying to recall the last time we had shared a bed, but the emptiness in her chest felt colder than the sheets around her. The silk bedding was smooth to the touch, but it took much longer to warm up compared to the cotton sheets we had once shared. Many years ago, when we were newly graduated and didn't have the means for such luxury, we would cuddle together for warmth every night before sleep. Now, she missed me desperately. Her heart ached as if someone was squeezing it tight. Just then, the alarm clock rang sharply at midnight, pulling her out of her reverie. Katerina couldn't lie there any longer. She suddenly remembered the small box I had left for her, the one with the beautiful jewelry inside. She quickly walked to the vanity and grabbed it. The box was small, fitting comfortably in the palm of her hand, but when she opened it, instead of a fine piece of jewelry, she found a small, oddly shaped silver block. At first, Katerina didn't understand. Why had I given her this? Her hand instinctively moved to the silver wedding band on her left ring finger, the ring she had painstakingly made for me herself. And then, it hit her like a bolt of lightning. The small silver block, it was my wedding ring. I had melted down our wedding bands. The grief was overwhelming. She finally understood the truth. This wasn't a case of me running away in anger or acting out. I was never coming back. Katerina was too distraught to even care about her upcoming birthday. In the middle of the night, she drove straight to the police station, breathless and frantic. I need to file a report. My husband is missing. He might have harmed himself, she gasped. I was an adult, free to come and go as I pleased. She had to come up with a convincing reason for them to investigate. Otherwise, they would dismiss her claim. The police took her report seriously and agreed to assist in the search. They accompanied her until the first light of dawn, but found nothing. A male officer asked Katerina, "Have you and your husband had any recent conflicts?" Katerina hesitated before answering. "No, our relationship has always been good." The officer, experienced and perceptive, immediately sensed she was hiding something. He warned her, "If you truly want to find your husband, you need to tell us everything. Otherwise, we can't help you." Katerina, blushing deeply, finally confessed, I've been seeing someone else. I think he found out about it." Chapter 12. This should have been proof of her charm, but in that moment, Katerina belatedly realized how humiliating her actions had been, especially considering that it was for this reason that I had left her. The male officer asked bluntly, "So your husband left because you cheated on him?" Katerina remained silent, her face contorting with guilt as she nodded. Luckily, a sudden phone call saved her from further questioning. Hoping it was me reaching out, she quickly answered. It was a man introducing himself as a lawyer from a law firm. He said, "May I speak with Ms. Katerina Ma? I'm the attorney hired by Mr. Han, and he wishes to meet with you. Are you available?" "Of course, I'll be there right away." Katerina didn't even attempt to explain herself to the police. She quickly fabricated an excuse about having other matters to attend to and rushed out of the station. Her mind was focused solely on meeting the lawyer and convincing me to come back. She sped through countless red lights, ignoring the angry shouts of pedestrians. But she didn't care. That was until the lawyer handed her a divorce agreement. Katerina didn't immediately notice the document. She looked around the office, anxiety clearly visible on her face. "Where's Henry? Isn't he willing to see me? Tell him to come out. I have something to say to him." The lawyer calmly responded, "I'm afraid I can't do that. Mr. Han is not here. He has fully entrusted our firm to handle the divorce proceedings. If you have any objections, you may tell me directly." He lifted the divorce agreement slightly, and only then did she notice it. Her face instantly went pale as she took the document from him. She barely glanced at it before tearing it into pieces, flinging the scraps around the office as she gritted her teeth and spat out, "I will never divorce him." Her eyes reddened as she insisted, "I made a mistake, but who doesn't? I know I was wrong, and as long as he doesn't like the people I've been with, I'll avoid them. This should be enough, right?" She still naively believed that I, who had always loved her so much, would be moved to come back if we could just talk again. The lawyer smiled faintly and reminded her, "Ms. Ma, now that you acknowledge your mistake, you must also be aware that divorce doesn't only happen through mutual agreement. There's also divorce by court judgment. Mr. Han said that if you disagree, he will instruct me to file for a lawsuit." Katerina, her voice shaking, asked, "He didn't even try to tell me this in person." She stared at the lawyer, trying to detect any sign of deception. The lawyer remained polite. smiling slightly as he replied. Mr. Han said he didn't want to see you. Anything he needed to say has been left in the letter. Katerina let out a bitter laugh. That's what he calls a letter. He only left me 2 sentences. Well, I'm not signing it. I've already torn up the divorce agreement, and I want to see him in person. Her heart ached so badly it felt as if something important had been ripped from her chest. The lawyer had expected this reaction. When she had calmed down a little, he opened his folder and retrieved another divorce agreement, saying, Mr. Han anticipated you would tear up the first one. That's why he asked us to prepare 2 copies. Katerina's fury exploded. She snatched the paper and was about to tear it up again. The lawyer smiled politely and said, MS, Ma. Feel free to tear as many as you want. The original has been reviewed by Mr. Han himself. We can print more if needed, at no extra charge. Of course. Katerina, drained of all energy, found herself immediately deflated. She switched tactics in an instant, her voice softening as she pleaded. I'm sorry, I was wrong before. Can you at least tell me where he is? The lawyer's demeanor remained unchanged. Sorry, MS, Ma. I don't know. His implication was clear. He had no intention of letting her see me, even for a final time. Katerina's tone became more polite, almost pleading as she said, how about this? If you tell me Henry's whereabouts, I'll pay you 1,000. No, 50 million. The lawyer remained unfazed. MS, Ma. I cannot disclose information that Mr. Han does not wish to share. This is just a case. 50 million would be enough for you to open your own firm, or even retire comfortably without needing partners. This is a very lucrative deal. Katerina attempted to bribe him, but the lawyer remained firm. MS, Ma. Of course, I'd love to become rich overnight, but I'd rather earn that money through the firm. Besides, I genuinely don't know where Mr. Han is. After he entrusted everything to us, he only contacted me by phone. Katerina held onto her last shred of hope. Give me the phone number he's using now. I'll pay. The lawyer responded smoothly. He's still using his old number. I called him earlier today, but there was no answer. The conversation ended as the room's atmosphere grew unbearably cold. Chapter 13. Katerina, seeing that the lawyer was unaffected by both soft and hard tactics, grew serious and reaffirmed her stance. Then we have nothing more to discuss. No matter how many copies you print, I will never sign. As for a lawsuit, do as you wish. She refused to believe that I wouldn't show up in court before then. She was determined to do whatever it took to earn my forgiveness. With so many years of shared memories, she believed that if she just held on, I would eventually come around. The lawyer had anticipated her reaction and calmly began explaining the law to her. MS, Ma. Actually, Mr. Han doesn't need to sue you. That's a last resort. If possible, he would prefer an amicable separation. For example, after 2 years of separation, he can file for divorce on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. I had already thought this through. Once I made up my mind to end the relationship, I planned for every possible scenario and prepared solutions in advance. Katerina was stunned. That's impossible. He wouldn't be so heartless. We loved each other so much. Is he really going to deny me over one mistake? She conveniently forgot about everything she had done over the past months, including her neglect of me. The lawyer wasn't concerned about her feelings. He simply reiterated the facts. MS, Ma. Your personal opinion doesn't change the law. If you think it's unfair, you can always sue the law itself. Katerina, stubborn as ever, insisted. So, if I find Henry during this time and make up with him, that will solve everything. The lawyer smiled but said nothing, knowing full well her efforts were futile. Just as Katerina was at an impasse with the lawyer, her phone rang. It was the police. MS, Ma. Based on the information you gave us, we've pinpointed the last location of Mr. Han's phone signal. Can you come here? I'll be there right away. The divorce issue was temporarily forgotten. Katerina had never heard of the location the police mentioned. She quickly plugged the address into her GPS and sped off. When she arrived, she was met with a barren plot of land, surrounded by trash, with no buildings in sight, except for a few half-finished ones. The police were searching the area. This sight deeply wounded Katerina. Her mind raced, conjuring images from countless crime dramas, and she almost fainted from the shock. One of the passing officers helped her. MS, Ma. Calm down. Barely holding herself together, Katerina asked in a shaky voice, where is he? Have you found him? She feared the worst, thinking I had taken my own life, and in that moment, regret overwhelmed her. Had she known things would end like this, she wouldn't have called the police, claiming I was in danger. But I wasn't in danger, I had just left. Katerina's voice cracked. It's all my fault. He didn't disappear. He just doesn't want to deal with me anymore. It's my fault, she rambled, clearly in a state of shock. The officer who had been helping her, still perplexed by her words, handed her a bag and said, MS, Ma. We didn't find Mr. Han's phone, but we found a SIM card. Could you check if it's his? It was then that Katerina snapped back to reality. Is it just the SIM card? Where's the phone? The officer shook his head. We've searched the area, but there's no sign of the phone. Emotionally drained, Katerina took the SIM card from the evidence bag. She inserted it into her phone and tried turning it on. Curious, she wondered what I had felt when I left her, and whether there was any part of me still holding on. The screen remained black, clearly out of battery. Katerina felt her resolve nearly snap, but she kept herself together long enough to ask the police, "Could I borrow a charger? I'll charge it in my car and return it right away." The officer didn't question her further. After checking with his colleagues, he borrowed a portable charger and handed it to her. "See if this works." The SIM card has been exposed to water for a while. The wasteland was overgrown with weeds, and even though it was late autumn, dew still clung to the plants. Katerina refused to accept the possibility of my phone being ruined. She prayed quietly as she charged the phone, and, perhaps because her prayers were sincere, the screen flickered to life. The first thing she noticed were the missed calls, almost all from her. Then came a flood of unread messages from Oberon. She had always believed there was no connection between the two of us, but here it was. Oberon's tone in the messages was completely different from how he acted in front of her. Chapter 14. The messages read, "Henry, you know Katerina well. She's sentimental and can't let go. As long as you're willing, she can follow you forever. But I think it's best we clear the air. Love doesn't have a ranking, but I think if she had met me first, you two would now be no more than old classmates. Men should know how to have fun in relationships. Being too honest just makes you boring to women. Youth may not be everything, but Katerina has high needs in that area, and I'm at the age to satisfy her better than you can. Ding ding ding. This is the necklace Katerina made for me and gave to me herself. Henry, you must understand. We truly love each other. If you agree, I'll leave the house to you as part of our breakup settlement, because Katerina will give me a new one." There were many more messages like this, short, crude, and brimming with a familiar scent of tea. Oberon couldn't stop mentioning my name, and constantly referenced his age in relation to Katerina, as if it were some sort of justification. Katerina's face grew colder with each word, and her heart sank as she scrolled up. What she discovered made her blood run cold. Oberon hadn't just sent messages. He had sent pictures, photos of Katerina with gifts he had demanded, screenshots of her money transfers, 520, 1,314 amounts, and even more intimate photos of her sleeping with him beside her. Katerina's stomach churned. She felt disgusted beyond words. The officer who had lent her the charger saw the messages too. A sneer formed on his lips as he looked at her with growing disdain. It was clear to him that Katerina was not just holding on to the hope of reconciliation with me, she was trying to build a new life with someone else. Only Katerina seemed to believe that hiding it from me was proof of her love. She was trembling now, unable to even recognize herself in these images of betrayal. She took a deep breath and handed the portable charger back to the officer, her face empty of emotion. "I want to go home. Please continue searching for Henry." She couldn't bear to call me her husband in front of anyone anymore. On the drive back, she called Oberon. Her voice was colder than it had ever been. "Where are you? Come to my place. There's something we need to discuss in person." Oberon was overjoyed. "When?" "Right now," she replied. Katerina ended the call, drained, with no strength left to face any more of the mess she'd created. She had no intention of going to the place she'd arranged with Oberon. Just the thought of it made her want to vomit. She hadn't had a sip of water since yesterday. Oberon, however, was faster than she was. By the time she got home, he was already there, acting as if he were the man of the house, barking orders at the servants without a care. "Take down those paintings. They're awful. If you're going to hang something, buy some expensive ones. Who wants these ugly things? Oh, and the carpet needs to be replaced. I'll give you the brand later. It has to be the most expensive custom-made one. I don't want my friends thinking I'm lying to them. Pull up the flowers outside too, and get me the most expensive ones." He was giving instructions like a king, walking around with a sense of entitlement, pinching plants and throwing leaves aside like it was nothing. Only when he saw Katerina did he stop. A grin spread across his face as he ran toward her, eager to please. "Where have you been? Have you figured out where you want to go to celebrate? I think we should stay here. After all, I'm the man of the house now, right? By the way, where's the chef? I want to order some food." To Katerina, Oberon had always seemed like an amusing distraction, a boyish figure who wasn't really bad, just a bit vain and spoiled. She'd never expected more from him and had enjoyed the adoration and the youthful energy he provided. But now, standing before him, she realized just how terribly wrong she had been. Her gaze turned icy as she asked, "What are you wearing?" Oberon, completely absorbed in his fantasy of becoming the new master of the house, didn't notice anything off. He even twirled around, showing off the outfit. "I found this in the closet. What do you think? Does it look good on me?" I looked around and this was the only thing that fit. Katerina's fury flared up instantly. "That's Henry's sleepwear. He's never worn it before." Chapter 15. Oberon completely misunderstood her intentions. Grinning, He tried to embrace Katerina, saying, "Isn't this more exciting, Katerina? What are you doing?" Before he could finish, Katerina had had enough and tore the sleepwear off him with a force that left him stunned. She ignored his cries, only stopping once the garment was tossed onto the floor. She didn't look at him even once during the whole scene. The servants, merely there for their jobs and wages, had no desire to witness such a spectacle. They all quickly fled the room, heading straight for the yard. Oberon was first startled, but when he realized no one else was around, he gave a knowing, smug smile. "Oh, so you want me again? I understand," he said, moving toward her to embrace her once more, not even attempting to hide his intentions. Their relationship had always been about physical attraction, nothing deeper. He had never felt the need for any sense of shame. As long as he could satisfy her desires, he'd be able to gain access to her wealth and status. Whether she saw him as a toy or a lover didn't matter, as long as he could secure the role of her partner and live in luxury. But Katerina's reaction was nothing like what he expected. She pushed him away with disgust, her eyes blazing with fury. "You don't deserve to wear his clothes, and you certainly don't deserve to touch his things," she spat, making it clear she had no desire to even be near him. Oberon had thought that after they moved into the house, marrying her would be inevitable. He had already begun to fantasize about becoming her husband, and he had planned to pressure her into finalizing the divorce. He had even changed into loose-fitting sleepwear, under which he wore nothing at all. He grinned, thinking he was being clever. "You've always liked me this way, haven't you?" he said with a smirk, but his confidence faltered when Katerina grabbed his wrist, stopping him from picking up his discarded sleepwear. Her icy gaze met him as she demanded, "If you had any decency at all, you wouldn't have sent Henry those messages, nor would you have taken photos of us together. I've warned you before, don't flaunt yourself in front of him. You're the one who drove him away." She made sure to place all the blame on Oberon, as if that would somehow lessen the hurt she had caused me. The truth of her own actions, her own betrayal, was pushed aside as she blamed him entirely. Oberon, realizing his secrets were out, quickly shifted into defense mode, pretending to be clueless. "What are you talking about? I've never sent Henry any messages or photos. I've been avoiding him." Did he find something out? It was a lie he knew would be hard to prove. He had no doubt that after finding out Katerina had been cheating, I would be done with the marriage. Katerina clenched her jaw, hissing, "You're still lying. Maybe I was blind before, thinking you were someone worth having, but you're nothing but trash. You really thought you could take his place," she snapped, her anger filling every word. Oberon, for the first time, saw Katerina looking at him with such venom. But instead of admitting fault, he crossed his arms defiantly, still clinging to the delusion that he could win. "It's definitely just him making up stories, trying to frame me." Katerina didn't let him escape this time. As he moved toward the stairs, trying to change back into his clothes, she yanked him back forcefully. "What are you doing?" Oberon gasped, panic rising in his voice. Without saying a word, Katerina pulled out my phone, showing him the screen. There, clear as day, were the explicit photos and the provocative messages he had sent to me. Oberon's face went pale when he saw what she had, and he muttered, "Wasn't he supposed to talk to you about the divorce directly?" As soon as the words left his mouth, he realized his slip-up. He scrambled to cover it up, saying, "I didn't mean to lie. I was just trying to protect you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't have risked everything." Katerina cut him off with a laugh tinged with bitterness. "Is it really love? Or is it my identity and the Ma family's money you're after? You know the answer better than anyone." She regretted everything now, the decision to push me away for someone like him. Her anger was too much to bear, and she let it all out. Oberon was still clinging to his fantasies, unwilling to let go of what he thought he had earned. He grasped her sleeve desperately, pleading, "Don't you see? I'm sincere. You know I've always been sincere," he continued, trying to justify his actions. "Do you really think Henry loved you? A man who loves you would get jealous, but he never cared. I was just trying to help you see the truth. That's why I sent those photos." "Shut up," Katerina interrupted him, her voice cold and final. She was done with his excuses, done with the lies, and most of all, done with pretending that anything about her relationship with him had been anything more than a convenient distraction. Chapter 16. Katerina spoke coldly. "You have no right to judge me. Besides, you probably wanted it to be exposed all along, didn't you? You took such clear pictures of me, but conveniently left yourself out of the frame. Don't think I don't know. This was all part of your plan to pressure me into marriage." She was as clear-headed as ever, but it was too late now. Oberon still wanted to argue, but Katerina was so disgusted by him that she didn't give him the chance. Without a second thought, she picked up her phone and called the villa's security team. "Take anyone who shouldn't be here out," she ordered. The security team, on call 24/7, arrived almost immediately upon receiving her command. Oberon, unwilling to leave, struggled as he tried to reason with Katerina. "Katerina, you're the one who invited me here. If you want me to leave, I'll go right now. But you can't do this to me." Katerina turned her back on him and walked toward the house without even looking back. "Don't let me see you again," she said coldly. Katerina. Oberon was dragged out of the villa. He watched helplessly as the ornate iron gate slammed shut in front of him, feeling as though his dreams of marrying into a rich family were slipping away. Desperate, he started shouting in a near-tearful voice, "Katerina, even without me, he'll divorce you sooner or later. This isn't my fault." He and Katerina shared an unspoken understanding on that point. Neither of them wanted to take responsibility. It wasn't until he heard people on the street whispering about him that he realized the full extent of his humiliation. What's with this guy? It's freezing cold, and he's running around with no shirt on. What is wrong with young people these days? It's disgraceful. Didn't you hear him? He said he's the reason for their divorce. Looks like he got kicked out after a fight with the wife. Wow. He looks so proper, but look at what he's doing. How shameless. Why not get a proper job? Why go around being a sugar baby? The crowd had gathered to gossip, taking photos and videos, not caring whether their footage would end up getting blocked on short video platforms. Oberon had always hoped for a quick rise to fame, but now he couldn't afford to have his reputation ruined. He covered his face with his hands, shouting towards the gate, "Katerina, Mrs. Ma, I'll leave right now, but at least give me a piece of clothing." The security guard, hearing the noise, returned to report to Katerina, "Mrs. Ma, Mr. E." He was cut off mid-sentence by Katerina's sharp command. "I don't want to hear about him again," she snapped, her voice dark with annoyance. Her mood was visibly soured, and the security guard wisely remained silent, not daring to provoke her further over a troublemaker who had caused chaos in her home. Outside, Oberon was screaming in vain. Seeing Katerina's heartless rejection, he discarded his pitiful, weak persona and began shouting insults like a common street thug. "You think I actually care about you? If you hadn't made it so easy, do you think I would have bothered with you? You'll regret this. Women are all the same, disloyal. You keep saying I'm your one true love, but you've been running around with other men behind my back, haven't you? Don't act all sentimental and fool yourself." He was no longer pretending to be anything other than the arrogant man he truly was. Curious bystanders, originally just drawn to the spectacle, stopped in their tracks to listen when they heard such explosive accusations. Oberon, realizing just how deeply he had embarrassed himself, reddened in the face, then, furious and humiliated, shouted, "What are you looking at? I'll call the police." It was a weekday, so the only people passing by were either retirees or neighbors checking out the commotion. His usual intimidation tactics didn't work on them. Some of the bystanders, eager to get their say, responded immediately. "You think we want to see this? You're out here playing the sugar baby, ruining someone's marriage, and now you're getting kicked out like this. Just go home already. Why stay here making a fool of yourself? Yeah, no self-respect at all. People should at least have some dignity. If he had any shame, he wouldn't be out here making a spectacle of himself like this." Shame? It was nothing but a useless concept to Oberon. This was the second time in a single day that he had been publicly humiliated like this, and he was seething with anger. He tried to lash out at the people mocking him. "Who says I'm a sugar baby? Who?" One of the passers-by responded with a laugh. "If you're not a sugar baby, then what are you? If she cared about you, would she let you walk around naked like this? Just a plaything. You really think you're something more? The houses around here are worth a lot of money. Guess you didn't get the money you hoped for. Huh? You're just losing everything." These last few words cut deep, and Oberon's face turned an ashen gray. He had no more bravado left in him. He walked away in defeat, as the jeering voices of the crowd echoed in his ears, feeling like his dreams of grandeur had been shattered for good. Chapter 17. A man who had recently divorced his unfaithful wife, filled with rage and resentment, stepped in front of Oberon and shouted, "What's wrong with you? You're young, why not do something decent instead of playing the homewrecker? TSK, sugar baby." Oberon, unwilling to back down, retorted, "Look at you, old man. You're too much of a failure to even be a sugar baby yourself. Are you calling me one because you got cuckolded by your wife, and now you're bitter about it?" The man was furious. "I'd rather be a failure than be thrown out onto the streets, half naked like you. You're the real disgrace." The man reached out angrily to grab him. The situation quickly spiraled into chaos. The old man lived nearby and quickly gathered a group of neighbors to scold Oberon as a shameless sugar baby. The onlookers who had been watching the drama now got even more excited, calling their friends over to join in the spectacle. Within moments, a crowd had gathered, watching the scene unfold. Inside the villa, Katerina heard the commotion, but she didn't even flinch. She was completely absorbed in her own world, unwilling to leave her sanctuary. No matter how much Oberon yelled or tried to argue, he couldn't outshout the crowd. Furious and humiliated, he tried to cover his face and slip away, but he was nearly molested by a lecherous older woman who reached out in the confusion. "Get off me, don't touch me," he yelled, shoving her away. Realizing that Katerina had completely turned her back on him, he shifted his attention to the other men in the crowd. desperate for any support. After all, someone who had lived off his looks and body couldn't even fathom standing on his own feet. He convinced himself that the men watching were all jealous of him. He wiped away his tears, adopting a hurt expression, and shouted, "Who will help me? I'll sleep with you, man or woman. I don't care." A few older women in the crowd, intrigued by his offer, started to remove their coats, eager to help. But just as they took a step forward, their friends grabbed them back. "Don't even think about it. You're willing to take a man like that? He's young enough to use his body as a bargaining chip. He must not care about anything. He's just trash." Exactly. Maybe he was kicked out because the woman he was with caught something from him. Is he out for revenge? We should call the cops. This guy is trouble. The moment those words were spoken, whether out of genuine concern or just to escape the drama, the crowd scattered in all directions. Even the men who had been arguing with Oberon quickly clapped his hands, as if trying to physically rid the air of any filth. Oberon, who had often relied on his body to earn money, was now confronted with the reality that the people who had once seen him as a prize were now avoiding him like the plague. The shame hit him like a ton of bricks. The iron gates of the villa were firmly shut, showing no signs of opening. In desperation, Oberon hugged his arms around himself, panicked, and started running toward the nearest alley. Halfway down the street, a stray dog began barking and chasing him. Terrified, Oberon bolted, darting through narrow alleyways to avoid the dog's pursuit. By the time the barking had faded away, he was completely disoriented and unsure of where he was. He had lost his phone and jacket back at the villa. He couldn't even call for help, let alone figure out how to get back. The area was desolate, with only a few long-abandoned houses, unvisited even by the homeless. He shivered in fear, his voice cracking as he shouted, "Help! Is anyone there?" But only the wind answered him. That night, Oberon had no choice but to walk back home on foot, freezing and alone. Had it not been for a kind passerby calling the police, he might have spent the entire night wandering aimlessly through the wilderness, still in his half-naked state. But this was just the beginning of his downfall. His dismissal letter arrived faster than he did, and soon, he became a viral sensation on social media, with his disgrace splashed all over the internet. His reputation was shattered beyond repair, and he would never show his face in public again. As for Katerina, she had done exactly what she promised. After kicking Oberon out of her home, she made sure to erase him completely from her life. That night, she sat on the couch, lost in her thoughts until someone reported to her, "Ma'am, we found a witness at the airport. They saw Mr. Han board a plane." Katerina froze. "I checked all the flight lists for that day. His name wasn't on any of them." The person responded, "Ah, then the witness might have been mistaken. It could have been someone who looked like Mr. Han. This lead is probably useless. I'll look into other options." "Wait, come back," Katerina interrupted. "I don't want to miss anything." "Which flight did the witness say he saw Henry board?" The person replied, "It was probably the flight to Norway." Katerina immediately sprang into action, her eyes flashing with resolve. "Book me a flight to Norway right now." She grabbed her passport and rushed out the door without even changing her clothes, determined to follow the lead wherever it might take her. Chapter 18. Katerina was frantic. However, getting a visa and booking a flight were not things that could be done on a whim. It wasn't until 3 days later that she finally stood on Norwegian soil, having contacted the embassy and local police to track down my whereabouts. She knocked on the door of the apartment, calling my name as she barged in. The landlord, who was in the middle of tidying the room, immediately blocked her way and suspiciously asked, "Who are you?" "I'm looking for Henry," she said, realizing that I hadn't used my English name here. She quickly corrected herself. "He's my husband. We had some misunderstandings, and I need to talk to him." The landlord waved her off dismissively. "There's no one by that name here. He goes by Henry." "Please, check again," she insisted. The landlord remained firm. "My tenant's name is Liberty, not Henry." "You've got the wrong place." "Liberty." Katerina stood there in confusion. She asked again, "Are you sure? Could you be mistaken?" The landlord's patience was wearing thin. "If you don't believe me, then fine. I'm not going to argue about it." With that, she began to close the door. Katerina wasn't ready to let this lead slip away. She pulled out some money and asked, "Could you at least tell me when he moved in? Or if he's had any visitors during his stay?" The landlord accepted the money but remained tight-lipped. "I can't tell you anything else." Nothing. Katerina was left empty-handed. Her spirits, which had already been low, sank even further. The despair in her voice was palpable as she realized I had vanished without a trace. She had no more leads, no more hope, and with nothing left to cling to, she returned to her country. From that day on, she stopped going to the office, locking herself away in her home. Her assistant called her to report work updates, but she immediately cut him off. "Any news on Henry?" "No, there's no news yet. We've put out missing person notices, but no leads for now." The assistant followed Katerina's instructions, but his efforts came to nothing. When he reported back, she responded with an eerie calm. "I understand," she said simply, ending the call without any further words. Over the next few days, the assistant called regularly to provide updates, but her responses grew shorter and shorter. At first, she would acknowledge and ask for further action. Later, she only muttered an indifferent in reply. The assistant began to feel uneasy. He feared that Katerina might have suffered a breakdown and was planning to isolate herself completely. He quickly contacted her parents for help. Katerina's parents, upon hearing that something was wrong with their daughter, rushed to her home. The servants were still following the routines I had set up before I left. Everything in the house was orderly, except for the absence of its owner. My mother, clearly anxious, stopped one of the servants and asked, "Where's my daughter? Why hasn't she come out?" Normally, Katerina would have greeted them warmly, but today, she hadn't even bothered to make an appearance. They had called her in advance, but she hadn't answered any of their calls. The servant pointed upstairs, her face grave. "Miss Katerina has locked herself in her bedroom. She told us not to disturb her." My mother's worry deepened. "Has she left the room at all?" The servant shook her head. "No, she hasn't." "What about meals? Did you bring her anything?" my father asked, growing more concerned. The servant hesitated, her voice tinged with frustration. "She won't eat or drink anything. We can't force her. Anyone who knocks on the door gets scolded." My father and my mother exchanged a troubled look. They now realized that something was terribly wrong. Katerina had been living in isolation. Her bedroom door wasn't locked from the inside, so they knocked for a long time, but there was no answer. Growing increasingly worried, they decided to push open the door. What they saw stunned them. The floor was covered with crumpled sheets of paper. Almost no space was left to stand. Katerina was sitting on the floor, her head down, scribbling furiously in a notebook. Despite the bright sunlight streaming in, her presence cast an eerie, oppressive shadow over the room. My father bent down to pick up a few sheets of paper. His eyes widened as he read the same phrase over and over again. "I was wrong." My mother's heart skipped a beat. She hurried over to Katerina's side, but the sight of her daughter, eyes red and trembling hands still clutching the pen, made her want to cry. The words her daughter was writing were like a cry for help. "What are you doing, Katerina?" she asked, her voice breaking. My father snatched the paper and pen out of her hands, his voice filled with disbelief. "What's the point of writing this over and over? We know everything. How could you do something like this?" Katerina's tears flowed as she looked up at her father with a mixture of shame and guilt. She raised her hand to cover her face, her voice muffled. "It's all my fault. I betrayed Henry. I couldn't resist the temptation, and now I've lost him. I'll finish writing all of this and show him how sorry I am." Her parents were left speechless, heartbroken, and helpless, as they watched their daughter continue to write her apology in vain, trapped in a cycle of regret and self-punishment. Chapter 19. The papers scattered on the floor were made of the same material as the ones I had left for her. Katerina had taken the notebook I hadn't finished using from the study and moved it to her bedroom. She spent day and night writing for several days straight. At that moment, time seemed to lose all meaning. My mother, her eyes filled with tears, implored, "Henry doesn't want to see you. Even if you fill the entire room with apology letters, what good will it do? You should say these words to him directly." Katerina paused and thought for a moment, acknowledging that her mother had a point, but she was already trapped in her own thoughts, unable to escape. She lifted her bloodshot eyes and insisted, "He will know. Once I finish writing all of this, he will forgive me. He will understand my sincerity." Her voice was hoarse, but there was an unusual fervor in her tone, and her eyes gleamed with an unsettling intensity. Mid-sentence, she suddenly grabbed the notebook back, her trembling hands continuing to scribble on the pages as she muttered to herself, "I was wrong. You will forgive me, won't you? Once I fill all these pages, you will come back, and you will forgive me. I'm so sorry." Katerina repeated these words endlessly. My mother, seeing her daughter descending into madness, helplessly begged, "Please, I'm begging you, stop writing and not eating or drinking. If you keep this up, you'll die." But no matter how much she pleaded, Katerina remained unmoved. She tried to take the notebook away, but her strength wasn't enough to stop her daughter. In the end, my father, unable to watch any longer, came up with an idea. He said, "You want to apologize to Henry, right? You need to let him know how you feel. There's a missing persons show running right now. You should sign up and apologize to him on camera in front of the audience." The show was gaining popularity, and with Katerina's status as a talented young woman, it would definitely attract attention. Perhaps I would see her confession somewhere in the world. Katerina immediately signed up, and by using additional funding, she secured a spot on the latest episode. The production team, sensing the gossip potential from her marital issues, ramped up their promotional efforts. By the time the episode aired, it was already generating buzz. Katerina didn't bother to hide her emotions, but for the sake of the show, she made an effort to freshen up and put herself together. Before she left, she even wore the first dress I had bought her after our marriage. Back then, our relationship was strong. Every day before leaving the house, we'd exchange a good morning kiss in our embrace. But as time passed, those beautiful moments had been shattered by her own actions. The studio audience was packed, all there to witness this scandalous event. The host, sensing Katerina's exhaustion, subtly probed for the cause of her marital breakdown. But to his surprise, she was direct and open from the start, confessing everything. She said, "I came here to apologize to my husband. I broke my promise when we were together. I told him many sweet things, believing we'd grow old together, our love never fading. But I couldn't resist temptation and made a mistake. As for our marriage, all the blame lies with me. I cheated first, and that's why he left. Today, I'm sitting here, just hoping that he'll give me a chance to ask for his forgiveness." Katerina spoke with genuine remorse, clearly explaining her feelings toward me. By the end of her confession, she was nearly choking on her tears. The production team, eager to capitalize on the drama, promoted the video widely. It quickly spread across the internet, sparking discussions on various forums. Some netizens even tracked down my past artwork and uncovered the identity of Oberon, the third party. But despite the flurry of voices, none of the information related to me surfaced. Katerina waited for several days, and when nothing came through, she forced herself to call her assistant. "I remember there's a video section on the company's official website. Can you upload my apology video there? No time limit, keep it up until we hear from Henry." This was essentially a public humiliation, not just for her but for the company as well. The assistant hesitated, feeling that this was too much, but didn't dare argue. He only asked, "Should we put it on the main site or the branch office site?" "Both." Katerina replied coldly, not satisfied. "Also, add space on social media. I want this on the front page, domestic and international. Anyone who has information about him can contact me, and put my personal number on there too." What started as a typical missing persons notice had turned into a media sensation because of my identity and the story behind it. Katerina believed that by taking this step, even if I saw her looking so tired and worn out on the program, I would choose to call her and talk things through. But I never contacted her, even though she kept her phone on 24/7, with the volume at its highest. I never reached out. A few days later, the first call from an unknown number arrived. The voice on the other end asked, "Is the reward for the lead on the missing person notice still up for grabs?" "Of course." Katerina responded quickly. The caller said, "All right, then send me 100,000, and I'll tell you where I saw him yesterday." "You saw him yesterday?" Katerina asked, her voice shaking with hope. "Yes." "Now send the money," came the reply. Without hesitation, Katerina transferred the money. Chapter 20. Katerina's sanity had long been crushed by boundless despair. Only when the mysterious caller vaguely gave her an address in China did she bitterly hang up the phone with a forced smile. It was no surprise that the person had lied to her, but she didn't pursue it. She simply didn't have the energy left to care. After that day, similar calls came non-stop. Every caller claimed they had seen me in some place, and they demanded varying amounts of money in exchange for information. Katerina knew that many of them were nothing more than scammers, but still, she sent money to each of them, desperately clinging to even the faintest hope that one of them might be telling the truth. But the so-called rewards were swallowed up by the void, not even causing a ripple. Katerina didn't care. The hope, however small, was all that kept her going. Even when some callers insisted on face-to-face meetings, she would still go, driven by the smallest shred of hope. There were also some men who reached out to her, but they were nothing more than opportunistic parasites, clearly after something else. They openly said things like, "Miss Ma, I've got a lot of guys on standby. If you're lonely, we can all keep you company." These were the men who peddled their bodies for a living. Katerina immediately dismissed them with one word: get lost. After that, even the people trying to deceive her stopped calling. Her phone lay silent all day, quieter than she was. A month passed in this way, but then, something happened at home. One afternoon, the maid, who had been knocking on Katerina's door for some time without receiving a response, grew concerned. There was no sound of her telling them not to bother her anymore. Cautiously, she pushed open the door to check. What she saw made her heart stop. Katerina was unconscious, lying on the carpet, barely breathing. It was a critical situation, and the maid immediately called an ambulance. My father and my mother, who arrived at the hospital in a state of shock, looked far older than they had just a month ago. They anxiously waited outside the emergency room, appearing as though they might collapse any moment. But the doctor brought more bad news. The patient's fainting was caused by dehydration and malnutrition. Moreover, she miscarried. This is a case of severe mental illness, and if she doesn't get treatment soon, there's a high chance she may even attempt suicide. My mother fainted on the spot upon hearing this. My father, though on the brink of collapse himself, had to force himself to sign the necessary paperwork and pay for the treatment. Only after they had stabilized could he record a new video at Katerina's hospital bedside. In the video, he appeared frail and tearful, pleading with me, hoping that I would return and save Katerina's life, for the sake of the past. On the other side of the world, I knew nothing of this. I had resolved to sever all ties with the past, and that included not getting involved in anything related to Katerina or the company. In the forests of Norway, There was a small wooden cabin. During the cold winter months, the town's residents mostly stayed home, enjoying the snow and resting. I, too, followed the local custom and chose to do the same. I set up my easel by the window and painted the snowy landscape outside. From time to time, I sipped the hot coffee I'd ground myself, while a newly adopted kitten curled up at my feet. The kitten, very affectionate and eager for attention, would meow and jump onto my lap, demanding to be petted. Just then, there was a knock at the door. I had no choice but to pick up the kitten and go open the door. It was Lisa, the landlord, who had come to visit. I stepped aside to let her in. This little one insisted on cuddling, so I had to bring him along. It's no problem. He's so adorable, Lisa said, shaking a bag she was carrying. I baked some cookies and wanted to share them with you. Thank you. I smiled and poured her a cup of coffee. In this small town with its simple folk, the winter life was a bit dull, and visiting neighbors was a common pastime. In just a month, Lisa and I had become quite good friends. During our conversation, Lisa mentioned something that caught my attention. She said, "Liberty, I saw a video on social media. It's an apology video from a woman, and she posted a missing persons notice with a photo that looks a lot like you, along with her contact information. I was curious if you've seen it." The woman in the video looked more and more like me, but Lisa, remembering that I rarely use social media since coming here, was worried there might be more to the story. So, she phrased her question gently. I laughed. Really? What a coincidence. But my appearance is quite common where I'm from, so it's not surprising if someone else looks like me. This was my way of denying it. Lisa looked at my distinctly foreign face and immediately understood my meaning. But, rather than confronting me directly, she simply changed the subject. It's not just the woman. Her parents also posted a video saying that she's been going through a really tough time. She lost the child, and she's in very bad shape. They said she might die soon. Chapter 21. I have to admit, Katerina's performance in the video was quite compelling. Even someone who doesn't understand the language could feel her despair through her expressions and the subtitles. I said, "No, that's not going to happen." I was holding the kitten in my arms, my eyelashes lowered as I spoke. Everyone is an independent individual. No one is meant to live depending on someone else. If she's going to give up on herself over this, then there's nothing I can do. I can't sacrifice others to fulfill her. My decision was final. Even if Katerina herself stood in front of me, crying and begging, I would never turn back. Lisa smiled and said, "That's good. Don't worry. You're safe here. The snowstorm in the forest is so heavy that the roads to the nearby city are temporarily blocked. Even if someone mistakenly thinks you're the woman in the video, they won't be able to contact her and cause any confusion." A warm feeling rose in my chest as I tasted a freshly baked cookie with a red rim around my eyes. I said, "Thank you. These cookies are really delicious." Time flowed like water, and before long, it was the night before Christmas. A big day for the town's residents. Many young people working in other cities would make the effort to come back and reunite with their families. I was alone in the cabin, but I had bought some fresh flowers and hung up a recently completed painting on the wall, trying to prepare for the holiday spirit. Lisa, being thoughtful, invited me over. "By the way, Liberty, my sister Anna is coming home tonight. It'll just be the two of us, and it'll be a bit lonely. Would you like to come over and spend Christmas with us?" Since there were no other plans, and I didn't see a reason to refuse, I picked out a few flowers, grabbed the kitten, and brought a pot of hot coffee with me as I headed over to Lisa's place. Lisa lived alone and was quite happy to have someone her age to keep her company. She looked around at the decorations scattered throughout the house and, with a slight embarrassed smile, said, "All these decorations are from Anna. She said she would help me set up when she came home, but it seems like it's just us now." The Christmas tree was nearly 2 meters tall, standing beautifully beside the fireplace, but putting the star on top was a challenge. I shrugged and said, "No worries. Just give me a chair and a stool. I'll do it." Being taller than Lisa, I stood on the stacked stools, tiptoeing just enough to reach the top of the tree. Together, we quickly decorated it, and the tree looked festive and cheerful. Lisa sighed and muttered, "I really don't know what's going on with Anna. First, she forgets the string lights, then she's been gone so long without bringing anything back. I just hope she's not lost somewhere." I glanced at the clock and said seriously, "It's still early. She can make it back in time for the turkey." "Oh my God, the turkey." Lisa suddenly realized the turkey was still cooking in the oven and rushed to the kitchen. It looked like she had her hands full. I chuckled softly and continued hanging decorations on the tree. When I heard the doorbell ring, I went over to open it. Standing at the door was a cute young girl who had mistaken me for Lisa. She cheerfully held up a string of lights and said, "I brought the lights." Her words froze as she realized she was speaking to a stranger. Our eyes met. I wasn't bothered at all and smiled as I explained, "You must be Anna, right? I'm your sister Lisa's tenant. She's in the kitchen preparing the turkey. She'll be out soon." Lisa, who had been watching, brightened and remained silent for a moment, until she finally called out from the kitchen, "What are you standing there for? Come help me with the turkey." Anna seemed to snap out of her daze. Like a kitten caught off guard, she quickly walked into the kitchen with the string lights, and after some prompting from her sister, she returned and handed them to me. But the whole time, Anna didn't dare look me in the eye again. Her fair skin flushed with a noticeable red. On Christmas night, the three of us sat around the Christmas tree, sharing turkey and Christmas cookies. When it came time to exchange gifts, Anna finally gathered the courage to meet my eyes. With sincere blue eyes, she asked, "Would you be my boyfriend?" There were no embellishments or clever words, just the simplest confession. I pushed the Christmas gift I had prepared for the two sisters toward them and said, "I'm sorry, but I think I'm going to leave here soon." "Where are you going?" Anna asked, her eyes wide. I replied, "To somewhere far away."